I, 28 Mem, need advice about my girlfriend Emma, 26F, and her friend from a dating app. I've always been a bit of a late bloomer when it comes to relationships. Growing up, I was the shy, awkward kid who spent more time with books than people. It wasn't until college that I really started to come out of my shell. Even then, I only had a couple of short-lived relationships that never got too serious. After graduation, I threw myself into my career as a software developer. I was doing well professionally, but my personal life was pretty lacking. My friends kept trying to set me up, but nothing ever clicked. I was starting to wonder if maybe I just wasn't cut out for relationships. Then about a year ago, everything changed when I met Emma. It was at a housewarming party for my buddy Steve. I almost didn't go. Large gatherings still make me a bit anxious. But Steve practically begged me to be there. I'm glad he did, because that's where I first laid eyes on Emma. She was Steve's coworker, and from the moment I saw her, I was captivated. Emma had this infectious energy about her. She lit up the room with her laugh and seemed to effortlessly work the crowd. I watched from across the room, too nervous to approach her. Steve, being the wingman he is, noticed me staring and decided to introduce us. To my surprise, Emma and I hit it off immediately. We spent hours talking that night, discovering we had so much in common. We both loved true crime podcasts, had a weird obsession with obscure 80s movies, and shared the same dry sense of humor. By the end of the night, we'd exchanged numbers. I texted her the next day, fully expecting to never hear back. But to my shock, she responded right away. We started hanging out regularly after that, grabbing coffee, watching movies, just enjoying each other's company. At first, things were purely platonic. I was honestly just thrilled to have made such a great new friend. But there was undeniable chemistry between us. One night, about a month in, after a few too many drinks, we ended up kissing. It was amazing, but in the morning we both freaked out a bit about potentially ruining our friendship. We had a long talk and decided to keep things casual. Neither of us was looking for anything serious at the time. Emma had just gotten out of a long-term relationship a few months prior and wasn't ready to jump into another one. I was still dealing with some self-esteem issues from my lack of relationship experience. Friends with benefits seemed like the perfect solution. For the next several months, that's exactly what we were. We'd text almost daily, see each other a few times a week, and had incredible physical chemistry. Gradually, I started developing deeper feelings for Emma. She was everything I'd ever wanted in a partner. Smart, funny, ambitious in her career as a graphic designer, and we just clicked on so many levels. I found myself looking forward to our time together more and more. I tried to ignore these growing feelings at first. I kept reminding myself that we had agreed to keep things casual. Plus, I was terrified of ruining what we had. Emma had become such an important part of my life. I couldn't bear the thought of losing her completely if she didn't feel the same way. About 4 months in, Emma casually mentioned she was still using dating apps and talking to other guys. It felt like a punch to the gut, but I knew we weren't exclusive, so I didn't say anything. She'd occasionally mention matches or guys she was chatting with. I pretended to be cool with it, but inside, I was getting more and more jealous. I started to withdraw a bit, pulling back from our usual level of contact. Emma noticed and asked if everything was okay. I made up some excuse about being busy with work. In reality, I was trying to protect myself emotionally. I thought if I created some distance, maybe these feelings would fade. It didn't work. If anything, being away from Emma just made me realize how much I cared about her. I found myself constantly checking my phone, hoping for a text from her. When we did hang out, I cherished every moment. Around the 6-month mark, Emma started talking about this guy, Mike, 29M, she matched with. She thought he was really cute, and they had great conversations. They lived in different cities about 500 kilometers apart, but had been texting for a couple weeks. Emma mentioned she was thinking of taking a trip to visit him for a weekend. Hearing this, I felt like I was going to be sick. The thought of Emma with another guy was unbearable. I realized I couldn't keep pretending anymore. I was in love with Emma, and I had to tell her, even if it meant risking our friendship. So I finally worked up the courage to tell her how I felt. I asked her to meet me at our favorite coffee shop, the place where we'd had our first real hangout. I was a nervous wreck the whole time, stumbling over my words as I tried to express my feelings. I told Emma I wanted us to be exclusive and officially start dating. To my immense relief, Emma's face lit up. She said she had been developing feelings for me too, but was afraid to say anything because of our initial agreement to keep things casual. We agreed to delete our dating apps and stop talking to other potential romantic interests. I specifically brought up Mike, saying I wasn't comfortable with her still talking to him or going to visit, given the context of how they met. Emma assured me she understood completely and would cut things off with Mike right away. I felt so happy and relieved. Finally, after years of feeling like I'd never find someone, I was in a real relationship with an amazing woman. For the next few days, I was on cloud nine. Emma and I were more affectionate than ever, constantly texting and calling each other. We went on our first official date as a couple, dinner at a fancy restaurant followed by a moonlit walk in the park. It was perfect. A few days later, I casually mentioned wanting to follow Emma on Instagram. When I went to her profile, I noticed she only followed 4 accounts. Curiosity got the best of me, and I checked who they were. To my shock, Mike's account was one of them. My stomach dropped. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe she just forgot to unfollow him. But something felt off. I decided to ask Emma about it, trying my best to stay calm and not jump to conclusions. When I brought it up, Emma got flustered. She admitted she was still talking to Mike and hadn't cut things off like she promised. Even worse, she said she still planned to go visit him for the weekend. She claimed they were just friends now and nothing would happen. But I was crushed. I told Emma this felt like a huge betrayal of trust. She got defensive and said I was being controlling and insecure. According to her, I should be fine with her having male friends and going on trips with them. She accused me of not trusting her. I tried to explain that this wasn't about her having male friends in general. It was about the specific context of her relationship with Mike. This wasn't some long-time platonic friend. It was a guy she matched with on a dating app literally weeks ago with romantic, sexual intentions. Now she expected me to be cool with her having sleepovers at his place. We went back and forth for hours. Emma insisted I was overreacting and that I needed to work on my jealousy issues. I felt like I was going crazy. Was I really being unreasonable here? I'm at a total loss. I thought Emma and I were finally on the same page about our relationship. Now I feel like everything we talked about meant nothing to her. I want to trust Emma, but her actions are making that really difficult. Part of me wonders if I'm just not cut out for relationships after all. Maybe my inexperience is making me too clingy or insecure. But another part of me feels like this is a major red flag I shouldn't ignore. I don't know what to do. Should I try to get past this and accept their friendship? Or is this a sign that Emma and I want different things? Any advice would be appreciated. I really care about Emma and don't want to lose her, but I also don't want to be a doormat. Update 1. Thanks everyone for the advice and support on my last post. A lot has happened since then, so I wanted to give an update. After reading the comments, I realized I needed to have a serious talk with Emma about boundaries and trust. I spent hours agonizing over what to say, writing and rewriting a script in my head. Finally, I asked her to come over so we could talk in person. When Emma arrived, she could tell something was wrong. I took a deep breath and laid it all out. How hurt I was by her continued contact with Mike and her plan to visit him. I explained that while I'm fine with her having male friends in general, this specific situation made me very uncomfortable given how they met and the context. Emma got really defensive at first. She accused me of being controlling and said, I was trying to dictate who she could be friends with. We argued back and forth for a while, with her insisting Mike was just a friend and I had nothing to worry about. I tried to stay calm, but I could feel myself getting more and more frustrated. I brought up how she had initially agreed to cut contact with Mike when we became exclusive. Emma claimed she had intended to, but then felt bad about ghosting him. According to her, they had developed a real friendship, and it didn't seem fair to cut him off completely. We went around in circles for what felt like hours. Emma kept insisting I was being irrational and needed to work on my trust issues. I felt like I was going crazy. Was I really being that unreasonable? Finally, in desperation, I asked Emma how she'd feel if the roles were reversed. If I was planning a weekend trip to stay with a woman I'd met on a dating app right before we became exclusive. That seemed to get through to her a bit. She got quiet for a moment, then admitted she probably wouldn't like that either. That opened up a more productive conversation. We talked about our different views on boundaries in relationships. I shared more about my past insecurities and how they were affecting my reaction to this situation. Emma opened up about her fear of losing her independence in relationships. In the end, Emma agreed that continuing to talk to Mike and planning to visit him was inappropriate now that we were in a committed relationship. She promised to cut off contact with him for real this time. I felt relieved and hopeful after our talk. Emma seemed to genuinely understand where I was coming from. She deleted Mike on social media and showed me that she had sent him a message explaining she couldn't stay in touch anymore. Things were good for about a week after that. Emma was extra affectionate and attentive. She'd send me cute messages throughout the day and made an effort to plan special dates for us. I started to think maybe we had worked through the issue and come out stronger for it. Then last Friday, Emma told me she was going out of town for the weekend to visit her sister. I didn't think much of it at the time. Emma and her sister were close, and they tried to get together every few months. But as the weekend went on, something felt off. Emma's texts were less frequent and shorter than usual. When we did talk on the phone, she seemed distracted. I tried to shake it off, telling myself I was being paranoid. Then, on Saturday evening, I decided to surprise Emma with a video call. I thought it would be nice to see her face and maybe chat with her sister too. When Emma answered, I could immediately tell she wasn't at her sister's house. The background looked like a hotel room. She seemed flustered and made up an excuse about her sister's place being fumigated, so they got a hotel for the night. I had a sinking feeling in my stomach. I asked Emma to turn the camera around and show me the room. She refused and got angry, accusing me of not trusting her. We argued for a few minutes before I heard a male voice in the background ask, "Is everything okay?" My heart dropped. I recognized the voice from videos Emma had shown me before. It was Mike. She had lied about visiting her sister and secretly gone to see him anyway. I was absolutely gutted. Emma started crying and admitted everything. She swore nothing physical had happened yet, but she just needed to see Mike in person to get closure. She begged me to forgive her and said she'd come home right away. I was too shocked and hurt to even respond. I just hung up the call and sat there in stunned silence for a while. Then the anger started to set in. I sent Emma a text telling her not to bother coming back and that we were done. I blocked her number and on all social media. The past couple days have been really rough. I've been oscillating between crushing sadness and intense anger. I keep replaying everything in my head, wondering if there were signs I missed. Part of me wants to hear Emma's explanation, but I know I can't trust anything she says at this point. I know I made the right choice ending things, but it still hurts like hell. I really thought Emma was different. I let myself be more vulnerable with her than I ever had with anyone before. Now I feel like such a fool for trusting her. I'm trying to keep busy to distract myself. I've thrown myself into work and started going to the gym every day. But when I'm alone at night, it all comes crashing back. I can't help wondering, was any of it real? Did she ever really care about me at all? I know logically that this isn't my fault. Emma made her choices, but I can't help second-guessing everything. Maybe if I had been more understanding about her friendship with Mike, she wouldn't have felt the need to lie. Or maybe I should have trusted my gut earlier when things felt off. I'm not sure where to go from here. The thought of trying to date again someday feels overwhelming. I'm not sure I'll ever be able to fully trust someone again after this. For now, I'm just trying to take it one day at a time. Update 2. It's been about a month since my last update, and unfortunately things have only gotten messier. I thought blocking Emma and cutting contact would be the end of it, but I was wrong. For the first couple weeks after the breakup, I was a mess. I could barely eat or sleep. I was going through the motions at work, but my mind was constantly replaying everything that had happened with Emma. I kept wondering if I had overreacted or if there was some explanation that would make it all okay. My friends were great during this time. They took turns checking in on me, bringing me food and trying to distract me. Steve, the friend who had originally introduced me to Emma, felt especially guilty. He kept apologizing for ever bringing her into my life. I assured him it wasn't his fault, but I could tell he still felt bad. About 2 weeks post-breakup, I started getting messages from an unknown number. At first, I ignored them, assuming it was Emma trying to contact me from a new number. But curiosity got the best of me, and I finally read them. It turned out to be Mike. He said he felt guilty and wanted to come clean about some things. According to Mike, he and Emma had been in contact the entire time, even after she supposedly cut things off. They'd been sexting and video chatting behind my back for weeks. He sent me screenshots as proof. What's worse, Mike said Emma had actually visited him twice before the weekend I caught her. She'd lied about work trips to sneak away and see him. They had slept together both times. I was completely blindsided. I knew Emma had betrayed my trust, but I had no idea the extent of her deception. It made me question everything about our relationship. Were there other lies I didn't know about? Had anything between us been real? I didn't know whether to believe Mike at first. Part of me wondered if he was just trying to cause drama. But the screenshots he sent seemed genuine, and the dates of Emma's supposed work trips lined up with times she had been distant and hard to reach. After agonizing over it for a day, I decided I needed to hear Emma's side of the story. I unblocked her number and called her. She sounded surprised but happy to hear from me. I cut right to the chase and asked her about what Mike had told me. There was a long pause, and then Emma broke down crying. She admitted it was all true. She said she had developed real feelings for Mike, but was confused because she cared about me too. She claimed she never meant to hurt me and had planned to end things with Mike after that last visit. I listened in stunned silence as Emma poured out a litany of excuses and apologies. She said she had been scared of how serious things were getting between us. She said Mike made her feel exciting and desirable in a way I didn't. She swore she had realized she truly loved me and would do anything to fix things. I felt like I was in a daze as Emma talked. Part of me wanted so badly to believe her, to think there was some way we could move past this. But a larger part knew that the trust between us was irreparably broken. I told Emma that ship had sailed and to never contact me again. I blocked her number once more and thought that would finally be the end of it. I spent the next few days in a fog, trying to process everything I had learned. But a few days later, Emma showed up at my apartment unannounced. She was hysterical, saying she couldn't live without me and would do anything to fix things. I told her to leave, but she refused. Emma camped out in the hallway outside my door for hours, alternating between crying and yelling. My neighbors started complaining about the noise. I finally had to call the police to have her removed. Watching her be escorted away in tears was one of the hardest things I've ever done. The next day, I started getting bombarded with calls and messages from Emma's friends and family. Apparently, she had told them all kinds of lies, that I had cheated on her, that I was abusive, that I had stolen money from her. They were harassing me nonstop, calling me every name in the book and threatening to make me pay for hurting Emma. I was shocked and hurt by these accusations. I had always gotten along well with Emma's loved ones. Now they were treating me like some kind of monster. I tried to explain my side of things, but no one wanted to hear it. They were convinced I was the villain in this story. I've had to block dozens of numbers and lock down all my social media. Some of Emma's more zealous friends even showed up at my workplace, causing a scene in the lobby. My boss was understanding, but I could tell he was concerned about how this drama might affect the company. I'm seriously considering moving to get away from all this chaos. The thought of starting over somewhere new is both terrifying and appealing. I never imagined Emma would stoop so low or cause such havoc in my life. I'm angry, hurt, and frankly, a little scared of what Emma might do next. I've started documenting everything, saving threatening messages, recording incidents of harassment. I'm looking into getting a restraining order, both against Emma and some of her more aggressive friends. This whole situation has become such a nightmare. I keep asking myself how I got here. Just a few months ago, I thought I had finally found real love and happiness with Emma. Now my life feels like it's falling apart. I'm trying to stay strong, but some days it's hard to even get out of bed. The betrayal and lies from Emma were bad enough, but now having my character assassinated to everyone we know is almost unbearable. I feel so alone and misunderstood. My own friends and family have been supportive, but I can tell they're getting tired of hearing about all this drama. I don't blame them. I'm tired of living it. I just want it all to be over so I can move on with my life. For now, I'm taking things one day at a time. I'm focusing on work, trying to maintain some sense of normalcy. I've started seeing a therapist to help process everything that's happened. It's helping, but I know I have a long road ahead. I'm not sure what the future holds, but I know I can't let this experience define me. Someday, I hope I'll be able to trust and love again. But for now, I'm just trying to weather this storm and come out stronger on the other side. Update 3. It's been about 3 months since everything went down with Emma, and I'm finally starting to feel like my life is getting back to normal. The road hasn't been easy, but I'm making progress day by day. After Emma's stalking behavior and the harassment from her friends and family, I did end up getting a restraining order against her. It was a difficult decision, but ultimately necessary for my peace of mind. The process was stressful, having to recount all the painful details in court, but worth it in the end. The restraining order seemed to finally get through to Emma that it was over for good. The harassment from her circle died down as well, though I still get the occasional nasty message from a mutual acquaintance. I also ended up moving to a new apartment across town just to have a fresh start away from all the memories and drama. It was a hassle, but ultimately worth it. My new place is smaller, but it feels like a sanctuary. I've been enjoying decorating it and making it my own. I've been in therapy to work through everything that happened. It's been really helpful in processing my emotions and rebuilding my self-esteem. I'm learning to trust my instincts more and set healthier boundaries. I'm not ready to date again yet, but I'm getting to a better place. Work has been a good distraction throughout all of this. I threw myself into a big project, which paid off with a promotion last month. My boss pulled me aside to say he was impressed with how I handled myself professionally despite all the personal turmoil. It felt good to have that recognition. One positive thing that came out of all this: I've reconnected with some old friends I had drifted away from while I was with Emma. They've been incredibly supportive through everything. We've been having weekly game nights, which has been a great way to stay social and have some much-needed laughs. I ran into Mike at a coffee shop last week, which was awkward, but surprisingly civil. He apologized again for his role in everything and said he felt terrible about the whole situation. Apparently Emma had been lying to him too about the nature of our relationship. We're certainly not friends, but the encounter gave me some closure. I still have moments where the anger and hurt creep back in. I'll see something that reminds me of Emma, or have a dream about her, and it all comes rushing back. But those moments are getting less frequent and less intense. I'm learning to let go and focus on the future rather than dwelling on the past. I'm cautiously optimistic about what's ahead. For now, I'm focusing on myself, my career, and rebuilding the parts of my life I had neglected. I'm rediscovering old hobbies and trying new things. Last weekend I went skydiving, something I never would have had the courage to do before. It was terrifying and exhilarating, and it made me feel alive in a way I haven't in months. This experience has changed me. There's no doubt about that. But I'm determined not to let it harden me. I know there are good people out there, and I refuse to let one bad experience ruin my faith in humanity. Hopefully someday I'll be ready to trust and open up to someone again. But I'm in no rush. I'm learning to be happy on my own first. For anyone going through something similar, hang in there. It does get better. Take care of yourself. Surround yourself with supportive people, and don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it. You're stronger than you know.